Let's listen in.
I said before the Royal Commission, Tony Abbott's Royal Commission, that I would relish the opportunity to put my record of standing up for workers in Australia up against Tony Abbott's any day of the week. What happened in the Royal Commission is that I answered hundreds of questions on my record of standing up for Australian workers and Tony Abbott's Royal Commission, and indeed I answered enough questions until the Commission finished earlier than expected today. Happy to take a couple of questions.
Mr. Shorten, can I just ask you about this issue of perceived conflict of interest? Do you think there is any conflict of interest that has been unveiled over the last 2 days?
Not at all. There was no evidence demonstrated of any conflict. The truth of the matter is that every day I was a union rep, I was standing up for our members. And of course, where we would cooperate with employers for the best interest of our workers. No conflict of interest whatsoever.
Why do you think your credibility was questioned?
Sorry.
Why do you think your credibility was questioned?
Well, the Royal Commissioner, Mr Hayden, he's got a job to do. What I did is I answered hundreds of questions. In fact, I answered questions until the Commission finished today, earlier than expected. He has a job to do, I get that, it's Tony Abbott's Royal Commission, but I am more than satisfied with the opportunity to put forward the case for Labor and the case for standing up for workers.
Do you think Commissioner Hayden overstepped the mark in his comments?
Oh, Mr Hayden's got a job to do, I think we all understand that. As far as I was concerned, I was willing to cooperate, willing to talk about my record of standing up for Australian workers when it comes to better pay, better conditions, better safety, better job security.
One National Secretary has already called for you to resign today. What's your response to that?
Sorry, you guys have got to give each other a little break.
What do you say to those who think you should resign? One of those best.
Well, Mr Hogg's advice I put somewhere between Mr Abbott's and Senator Abbott's and probably even Christopher Pyne's.
Mr Shorten, can you guarantee that when you were AWU Secretary that there were no members that were counted as members that weren't actually voluntarily signing up as members?
I always made sure and stood for the policy that our members were in the union and that they were signed up and we knew who they were, absolutely.
Do you still have the credibility to leave the Labor Party and put yourself forward as the alternative Prime Minister?
Absolutely. As I said in my opening statement, I relish the opportunity to talk about my record standing up for workers, for making sure that people got the best paying conditions possible that we could negotiate. I put my record up against that of Mr Abbott's any day of the week. What we saw in the Royal Commission is they were asking questions about a particular clause and a particular agreement. This was at the same time when Mr Abbott and his cohorts were taking away the conditions of all Australian workers. I'd back Labor against Mr Abbott and his Liberals any day when it comes up to standing for workers.
How were the last 2 days? Was it uncomfortable sitting in there in the Royal Commission?
Well, I think it's part of the rite of passage for a Labor leader that in Mr Abbott's government you get called before a Royal Commission. What I was willing to do, as I did, was cooperate and answer questions, and I certainly relish the opportunity to talk about my record.
Did it feel like a witch hunt?
Well, I'll leave it for others to judge. It was Mr Abbott's Royal Commission into unions, but I seek to offer myself as the alternative Prime Minister of Australia. I'm prepared to have my record of standing up for Australians put on display, and before this next election we will be asking the same of Mr Abbott and his Liberals. What will he do to promote the interests of working Australians? And I tell you what, based on his record, based on what his government's doing right now, the future isn't promising with Mr Abbott standing up for working Australians. Thanks very much everyone, see you soon.
Bill Shorten giving a fiery but brief media conference after his testimony on day